Are you immersed in a sea of business advice and education, but not sure what to embark on first? Instead of adding to the ocean of information, we're here to help you navigate it like a pro. The Wayfinding Growth podcast will help you take a deep dive into new actionable strategies, tools, and tactics to help you grow. So start charting a course for business growth as you explore a better way to grow further, faster, with your hosts, Remington Begg and George B. Thomas.
What's up, fellow Wayfinders? It's your boy George B. back again, yes, for another episode of Wayfinding Growth. And I'm not alone, which is good, because if I was, this episode would be completely boring. I do have the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Remington Begg. How are you doing, fine sir?
I'm doing great. Excited to get back on the Wayfinding Growth bandwagon. I feel like it's been a minute.
It has been a hot minute. I will tell you this. I'm super excited about this conversation today because while the conversation may sound like it could be very small, it actually may be very big to a lot of companies and a mindset that they have out there. Because sometimes, and Remington tells me this almost on a daily basis, when you're trying to do everything for everybody, you can almost do nothing for somebody. Anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more. Let me go ahead and interview the guest with Remington. Let me also let you know who it is. Today we are talking to Vincent Orleck. Some of you might know him, but he is going to talk about channel. God, and I'll let you know right now. I have a problem with this word, but it's exclusivity. I try of content and the benefits and the approach around it. Now, Vincent Orleck definitely knows about some social medias because he is the president of Social Media Club Phoenix and social media manager for Arizona State University Knowledge Enterprise Development. Vincent, why don't you say hey to the Wayfinding Growth community?
What's up, everybody? Forks up.
Oh, snap. Forks up, he said. Forks up. You know, and I will say, Remington, this is really interesting because I would say this is the first car interview that we have. Yes.
Awesome.
First car interview, yeah.
Which is
and
cool.
I think the first one on a mobile phone. It's like mobile times 2.
Yeah. It is mobile, but we must warn you that there is no driving happening, and therefore no roads have been involved in the making of this episode. Let's go ahead and dive into this. Vincent, we want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to the community. We want you to be able to kind of tell a couple things, a little bit of your backstory. Let's start with that, and then we'll dive in from there.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love the show. I'm a big fan of all things podcasting, and I love what you guys are doing. I guess I got my start without going too crazy with it. I started with TV and radio back in the day in college, and then when I moved out here to Arizona in the mid-2000s, I worked for the newspaper out here and was doing ad sales, and that led me to Yelp, of all things, working with small businesses, and I saw a way that I could essentially do my job as an ad salesperson using Yelp back then because they weren't aware of it, these small mom and pops. And I would go in and be like, hey, do you know you have a page on Yelp that people are talking about you on and leaving positive and negative reviews, by the way? And they would appreciate that. And it would build that relationship like as though, I cared about what happened to them, which I did. So that's kind of where I started to get my feeling about how powerful social media can be. We know Yelp right now. Yelp isn't quite social media as we know it, but it's one of the sort of offshoot platforms. It's reviews. I mean, they're super important, especially for small businesses on that channel. So I developed that into a social media career. Worked for a Facebook program out here in Phoenix for about a year. Again, working with small businesses. Led to working for one of the bigger tech startups out here, managing their social. That's where I met Mr. Fanzo, who we're all familiar with. Me and Brian worked together there for a while, and I saw him kind of launch into the stratosphere of social media. Even back then, he had like 5 or 6 Twitter accounts, by the way. So, and then from there, I've really just tried to hone the craft and learn as much as I can, stay up on things. Me and my buddy Adam Lidecker, we have a podcast called More Than Hashtags, where we try to talk about things for small business, how social media can be used in a practical way. My role here with Arizona State is all social media related. I'm on the research side of the university, so the audience that I'm working with is definitely more the funding, trying to talk to the people who do the funding for the research. There's a tertiary audience of we're trying to reach students, but in general, it's more like the funding sources that provide the money for research at the university. And then I try to be active within the community. We have the tech startup community here. It's called Yes PHX, and I'm a big advocate for the tech and startup community here in the Valley.
Sounds like fun. Busy guy.
A lot going on.
So when you talk about today, like, how are you making a living? You're making a living you work for Arizona State, and what's your primary function?
Yep, full-time ASU social media manager for the research side of the university. Social Media Club Phoenix is all volunteer. Yes PHX is all volunteer. I help out with the marketing side of things there, and then also Phoenix Startup Week is a big deal here once a year too.
Cool.
So, Vincent, it's interesting that you mentioned Brian Fanzo, which he's going to be a guest in the very near future, which we're looking forward to. Yeah, go figure. The guy is almost everywhere. So here's the thing, though. Like when you mentioned that, right, it got me to thinking about milestones or waypoints that you may have had in life. And so I don't know if when you were, birthed, if you were like, I want to do social media for a university, but like, think of like some things that happened along the way that kind of plotted your course to where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I did not come out of the womb thinking I was going to do social media because it wasn't in existence yet. Neither was the internet. Well, the internet may have been, but it was like 5 people in Utah or something that were using it, right? Like I said, when I went to school, I went to school back home in Rhode Island, and my whole thing growing up was I'm going to go do sports on TV or radio. And that was it. Like, that's what I was going to school for. That's what I was going to be. And then I just ran into some roadblocks where I did some amazing internships at the local TV and radio stations back in Rhode Island, a year each. Loved it. They let me do everything. They let me go. Like, I was, 20 years old, going in the locker room with the Patriots and Red Sox and Celtics at the Old Garden, talking to players, like interviewing players. And that was amazing. And I was like, I definitely want to do this. And then I got into sort of the working world, and at least in Rhode Island, it's just so small, and the opportunities were so limited. People didn't leave their jobs. New England in general is like that, I think, especially at some of the bigger TV and radio stations. It's people will generally, like, if they find a spot there's a lot of people that stay there for like 20 years, 30 years. So I hit some roadblocks, and I have family that has lived out here in Arizona for decades. And I used to come and visit. Funny enough, they used to send me stuff from ASU, like T-shirts and sweatshirts. So I became a huge ASU football fan and basketball fan back in the day. And when I moved out here, I was like, you know what? One of the first jobs I applied for was here at ASU. I didn't get it. I didn't get it because I really wasn't experienced enough at that time. I wasn't ready for it. So I paid my dues at the newspaper, the Arizona Republic out here. Worked in like the call center, starting off classified ads, taking classified ads in the mid 2000s. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'm not going to work in a call center. I'm not going to do that. But while I'm here, I'm going to learn. Right. So even taking those ads, I was learning about talking with people and how to market, how to advertise, even in those small 3-line ads. It's hard. It was hard in those ads because you had to get a point across in, however many limited characters, similar to Twitter, I mean, it's very similar. So that being said, like when I went to go work for Facebook here, that's when I really realized, oh, this social media stuff, this could be a career. Like there's people, There's businesses, there's people that are paying money. Facebook is dedicated to this advertising thing, of course, and trying to get small businesses to advertise on the platform and use the platform. And then from there, it was really just taking that knowledge that I learned there and then broadening it with not just Facebook, but Twitter and LinkedIn and everything at the time, 2012, 2013, working for the data center company that I worked for, IO, which was essentially a startup. I mean, they had a ton of funding. They were expanding to Singapore. They were doing a whole new thing with modular data centers. So dropping a data center next to the building, next to the company's business almost, rather than having servers out in like wherever, out here in Phoenix. Right. Managing social media for that type of a company was not easy. You know,
yeah, I can imagine.
Right, B2B. Talk about B2B. Like that's straight B2B. But even with B2B, as you guys know, there's still people involved. There's still decision makers involved. There's still an element of you have to reach these certain people rather than reaching a company. You're reaching decision makers. You're trying to reach the influencers within the company and catch their ear. So I mean, I learned a ton in the year or so that I was there too, and I met some amazing people that have led to a lot of things, including connections, you know, leading to this particular position and other positions that I've had.
Hi, now I want to hear about this channel exclusivity. So this next section is charting the course. So let's dive deep and talk to me about what exactly channel exclusivity is.
This is like a new thing I'm kind of working on, right? I feel it's my philosophy at this point that I'm trying to see where we are with social media, with marketing, right? There's, as we all know, so much noise. There's so much happening. There's content. There's news. There's all kinds of stuff happening on Twitter. There's posts on LinkedIn. I mean, there's just content everywhere. And as a business, I mean, this is the question I hear all the time from people like that own a business. Well, how do I know what platform to go on? How do I know should I be on every channel? What should I be posting about? What time should I post? Like all these questions that have been around for now like 10 years, right? You have to do something different at this point. You can't just keep doing the same things. Even the companies that have been successful for the last several years, at what point does that not be successful? If they've been doing it for the last 3 to 5 years, the same thing, and okay, well, there's a success level. Is that going to last, even like, especially on social media and content marketing? So what I'm really kind of throwing out there is this idea of, why am I going to pay attention to you? Why am I going to follow you as a business, as a brand on Twitter, on Facebook, on your Facebook page, on LinkedIn, on all these different channels? Why am I going to pay attention if all you're doing is throwing the same stuff out there constantly? Like it's just all across the board, even if you're switching up the captions, right? I mean, tailoring the content. The say you have a blog post, the brand has a blog post and it's the same blog post, but oh hey, well we changed up the caption on the Facebook post that's different from the tweet. That's great, and it's allegedly appealing to different audiences. Is it really like are these brands, are companies, are small businesses especially, right? Because resources are limited. Are they able to tailor content? Are they able to actually do that? So what happens? I think we're at a point of you have to put something on a channel, and that's the only place that you can find it. Literally, like you have a video, you have to follow our YouTube channel, or you have to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe to it. That's the only place you can see it. And people, I think at some level, what happens is people understand that after a point in time. For instance, like the show I watch all the time is Hot Ones. I don't know if you guys watch Hot Ones, right? By First We Feast.
It's great hilarious. Show. It's hilarious.
It's great, right? The main video that they put up all the time, each episode, is on YouTube. It's on YouTube. They may put like a clip or something on another channel, but in general, you have to go to their YouTube channel. And really, you have to go to the playlist on YouTube for First We Feast, because it's not even its own official like YouTube channel. It's a playlist in First We Feast. So because I like that, okay, I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna subscribe, and I know, and then YouTube's gonna also serve me like what I want to see as well. But I know, oh, First We Feast, Hot Ones, yeah, I want to go check that out for sure, see who's on there. I know I have to go to YouTube to find that. You know, the argument against it is, well, you're missing eyeballs on different platforms. I don't think so. I think you can tease it enough without actually giving it away on these other channels. But the whole exclusivity side of it is, if you want to read this post, it's on our blog. Here it is. We're not putting it on Twitter or Facebook or anything. It's like, we may tell you when it's up, but you have to go here to see it. So that's the idea. I mean, whether that's going to work for everybody, but I think there's something to be said for having that sort of exclusive approach to your content. Well, what do you guys think?
Yeah, so there's yeah, I'm glad you asked, because there's so much going on in my head. I think there's almost two conversations that are happening here right now. One, if you're going to do this, if you're going to buy into this methodology, which I actually think there's something there, Vincent, you have to create content that people actually want to see, right? Yeah. And so this, if you're going to be exclusive, mentally it pushes you to create something that is better than just what could be regurgitated over and over again. So I want to set that to the side and say there's a mindset and something that on the recap episode I'm definitely wanting to play around with and talk about. But the thing that I think is interesting in this, if we're going to dig a layer deeper to what you just talked about, is that for a lot of companies, social is a game, right? And that's you kind of giggled and talked about how, well, you changed the title, or you changed a little bit of the description, or maybe you use a different image, because it's a tactic, it's a strategy, versus delivering something that the end user is going to love, enjoy, want to be part of, and really buy into. And what my question then is, so if that's the case, if this being exclusive, see how I switched the word to something I can actually say? By using something or creating something that's exclusive, like, what game do you have to play then? And why does that even matter to brands? Like, just talk to me about the difference of like regurgitated, like poopy content, and what you would be then forced into actually creating if you went with this mindset. And also, before you do that, I want to pull out that we're not necessarily saying that you wouldn't be on other platforms. You would use the other platforms to tease, right? Because you mentioned that. So rewind that, viewers and listeners, that you're teasing the content, but you have a main pillar. So you're not saying I'm abandoning everything. You're going to do some things, but you have this main pillar. But talk to me, like, just in that general, like, why does it even matter for brands and businesses, if they're focused on growth, to have to push themselves or force themselves to this next level?
I think, and let me just, because you mentioned that about the other channels, it means also that those other channels, like each channel, however many you're on and have the resources for, put some sort of limited exclusive content for that channel. So like the Facebook Live video that you do, don't take it and put it on YouTube. Make it so that the only place you can see that is on Facebook, and make it like a regular thing, and maybe consider not reposting it, not sharing it. Make it a live video for real every so often, once a month, whatever. And this is it. Like, you have to, if you want to see it, you have to be there. So you're creating this urgency, this relevancy, this appointment television, if you will, appointment watching, appointment viewing. I think it makes brands, if they were go down that route, even sort of go down that route, I really think there's a lack of focus on content right now for brands, and again, small businesses. Like, it's just, part of it is resources, it's time, it's the know-how in a lot of cases. I mean, most companies do not have, they may have a social media manager, they may have a digital marketer, they may have a person dedicated to the content side, like writer or writers, but I don't know, very few companies I see have a content marketing team, like a true content, like a 5-person content marketing team where there's someone dedicated to this particular role, whether it's the writing, the SEO side, the even interviewing, like actually doing a story rather than a listicle. Right. Talking to people, taking that initiative to do that. And I think it would lend itself to a better focus on and creating better content. So one of the things our buddy Marcus Sheridan, right? Marcus, one of the things I always talk to people about because it matters and it's super smart is they ask, you answer, right? That whole aspect, people still don't get that. Even small businesses. I was talking to a group recently of freelancers and they were like, oh, well, I don't know. Some of them knew Marcus, knew the book. Most of them were like, you mean I should put my price on my website? Like, like that type of stuff. Or, giving them that whole idea, relaying that idea of writing a blog post about the topic, about what you do specifically, like showing your knowledge and comparing it to another business that's a competitor. That's a good thing. Like, yeah, now they're on your website and you're the thought leader and they're listening to you. So that's a good thing. And people are still so hesitant. They're so scared to talk about competitors or to do anything that they feel is too out of the box. So more of this, like addressing the need of the customer specifically, also relevant needs, because I think there's a lot of companies that they feel like they know the needs of the customer, but they haven't asked them in like 2 years. If they've asked them at all, right? So they like, oh, well, we know what our customers need and want. We know what they're always asking about. Well, do you really? I mean, you may have some idea, maybe, but ask them. Just ask them, and then that becomes a content topic that can serve all kinds of purposes. That one question that a potential customer has can be turned into, as we know, blog post, a Facebook post, a podcast. A podcast could be dedicated to one question, right? And have different people come on and address the question or talk about the topic. I mean, there's just infinite opportunities to keep it even still focused while spreading it and having different types of interesting, relevant content that people want to see.
So what I'm hearing you say is creating, like, having little commercials, if you will, dare I say commercial, to go after certain content on certain platforms, but really kind of catering it specific to that audience, right? Am I on the right page there?
Yeah, like LinkedIn has a very specific audience, I would say, right? I mean, if you post a meme on LinkedIn, they yell at you to go back to Facebook. You know what I mean? So I saw it again yesterday. Like having a very business specific piece of content is what you would want for LinkedIn generally. Gotcha. Having a more relatable, like personal, lengthy piece of content you'd want for Facebook or your blog post. I mean, that's tailoring it. Like, let's really tailor it. Let's really do it.
So when we're talking about that, so old way versus the new way that you're talking about, how does this channel exclusivity really, do you think, help set companies up for growth?
I think if it's done right, and there's a commitment to it, I think it naturally would grow the channels that they're on, and it would help them focus themselves too and focus their resources, because maybe they're on, again, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and they have their blog. Well, maybe they need to drop Twitter and LinkedIn because it's not doing it for them, and they should just focus on Facebook and their blog, or focus on Twitter and their blog. I mean, they have to figure that out. They have to figure that, because right now there's so many companies, so many businesses spinning their wheels. And it's because they have someone in a position, whether it's a social media manager or a content marketer, like, that's just trying to hit some numbers, hit some impression numbers or clicks or whatever. And they know they can do that with, well, if we write this post about the 5 best ways to such and such, we know we're going to get this many clicks. Sure. And it's really not serving anybody's need.
Yeah, I love that, Vincent, that we're talking about serving the customer, not being fear focused when we're going through this. And I think too, part of this conversation as you move forward and develop this idea is the idea of having a pillar that you're focused on and being laser focused to kind of shine that light onto that pillar, even though you're using some sub communities to do that, which I'm actually preaching to myself right now as I'm saying this. But when you think of this, and this may be a selfish question, like, are there a set of tools, or this could be a mindset, a methodology, like digital tools, physical things that you think of that one could use, a company, a person, to actually navigate the ability to stay pinpoint focused to that pillar of place where you're going to deliver great, amazing content?
I think I'm gonna throw something out there that's not. I mean, it's a tool, but it's not like a paid tool or anything like that, right? I think even right now, even with the focus heavily on this, it's still super underutilized by companies because they don't know how to do it. And what I would recommend is, and I've done this to a point, is Facebook groups. Facebook groups are super powerful, really useful if you want to use them. With the new initiative that Facebook has now towards groups, now they give you analytics. They give you all these tools to approve like who can come in. You can ask questions. You can pre-qualify people that come into the group. Someone that has used a Facebook groups like really well for years is John Loomer. John Loomer has Facebook groups for his business, where it's an added feature, or it's actually it's a primary feature of one of his like groups of people that pay, where they have not instant access, but regular access. I think it's daily access to asking him questions. He'll answer their questions and things about Facebook ads. But now groups, so the way you could use it as a tool, if you're a business, you wouldn't go on and create a group about your business. That's not the strategy. The strategy is, if you're a business that, let's say, the one that comes to mind is like an Arizona business that does sunshades, right? These big sunshade things that go over the patio. So you wouldn't go on and create a group called like Arizona Sunshades. You would create a group around something indirectly related to the product or the things that you talk about regularly in terms of what people want to know about with the weather, with the local economy, the local business economy. Maybe you position yourself as a local business leader, but your group is about local business, and that's what you're talking about. And all you're doing is, in this group, you're positioning yourself as the thought leader. You can talk about things. You can help people out. You can send them to other places when they ask for help or recommendation. Send them somewhere that will help them. Guess what? If you are a sunshade company and someone asks for a recommendation for a sunshade company, but you are out of their price range and you know someone else that's not, what would happen if you sent them, hey, you know what, we're a sunshade company. I don't know where you're fit. I mean, certainly check us out, but these guys are maybe more your speed. Like, you're truly, it sounds nuts to a lot of people. I get it. Like, businesses, they don't want to send leads somewhere else, but it's actually doing more for you if you are just out there to help the customer, like truly help the customer find what they need. That goes so long away, because then that person's talking about, they're like, oh yeah, these guys, they'll probably go check you out anyway, right? They'll definitely go look at your website anyway. They'll click on you and be like, oh, they're super nice. Yeah, they're a little pricey for me, but oh, my buddy needs a new sunshade, and he's got the $1 million home down the street. He can afford them. Send them that way. Stuff like that. I mean, you guys know about this too. I know you do, because I've talked to you about it, where helping people, that is where it's at. That is where I found the most value in my life, business, personal. Like, that's what has always worked. No matter what, that is what's always worked.
Amen.
Yeah, amen to that. And it's funny because what I hear in this whole kind of conversation that we're having about being exclusive, and yes, it is about being exclusive, but really it's actually a conversation that's quickly turning on, well, if you want to grow, because this is Wayfinding Growth show, then it is forcing yourself through exclusivity to actually pick a place that is your pillar for content and pick a way to do business in a more human way. Vincent, it's amazing that you actually mentioned Facebook groups, because when you think about groups, it really pulls away or tears away from the fabric of sell and selling, and really goes into the more human side, the engagement side, the helpful side, the value side.
Yes.
And so that's really the story that's being told through that. And even talking about John Loomer, or we have Facebook groups that we manage as well. Like, we realize if you want a deeper level versus the front facade that everybody puts on with their social media channels, that's a place where you can get that, which is absolutely amazing. I'm going to ask you a question that might be a little bit difficult for you to answer. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's something that hit my mind, and I just want to ask you, why do you think right now in 2018 and moving forward that this whole thing of being human in business and focused on value over sales and exclusive over everywhere is so stinking important to companies?
Well, it's funny because I think it's always been important. I think back in the day it was important, back in the 50s and the 20s, and it was important to a point. If anything, now it's more important just because of the level of transparency that exists heavily due to social media. I mean, you can website. I mean, you can see anything about a company at this point. You can see anything about generally anybody. Like, if someone, and I do this all the time, when I get hit up on LinkedIn for, hey, yeah, you should, these random DMs about, you should check out this product I'm selling. I mean, I might take a minute and go look at their profile, or see if they're on Twitter, see what they're tweeting about. I do go and do that. I don't know if everybody does that. I know people in our industry I've talked to tend to do stuff like that, just because we know, that's available to do that. But I do think it's because of this transparency level that these companies, if they're not on a human level, and look, the H2H thing, like, it's been done. Like, we know it has to be on a human level, and for that to, if you're a company that's not doing that, you're done. That's the first thing. Like,
Sure.
You're automatically out of the game for the most part. Even in a B2B world, I really feel that. I feel like these companies that are even in the B2B space that are super technical, super business-ish, it still comes down, right? It still comes down to, like, a sale is based on sort of the likability. It's always that. It's always that. Do you feel comfortable making a purchase, being sold something from this person, this company? Because do you trust them? And that's, I don't think that's changed for years. I just think now it's just so scaled where you can see whether you want to trust someone or not really quickly, and you're going to make a judgment. People make judgments now really quickly rather than waiting to hear the person that knocks at their door giving a pitch, right? They're not doing that. Most people are not listening unless they're going to goof on the person. Most people are not listening to these pitches. Everyone's been pitched a million times. We're all used to it.
Awesome. No, that's very true. Especially on social media nowadays too, personally and professionally. So cool. Well, this week's episode is brought to you by the Impulse Creative website and marketing audits. So often people look for shiny new websites or want to sign up for marketing retainers with agencies without fully understanding what the strategy and the changes should be. So our audits will demystify that process and set everyone up for success from the get-go.
I love being demystified. Also, you know what else I love? I love the Bermuda Triangle. Actually, it's one of my lifelong bucket list goals to scuba dive in the Bermuda Triangle, because I want to find all the lost things that are there. But
treasure.
The treasure. You know, you're going to give us some treasure right here in this section, because I really want to know, Vincent, from your perspective, like, where do companies get lost around this whole conversation of being exclusive with great content in one area and being laser focused?
Yeah, I think they get lost. Well, as we touched on before, I don't think many do it. I don't think there's much focus at all. I think that there's a problem at this point where it is just about hitting some sort of numbers, not really seeing the forest for the trees. It's not doing anybody any good. Like you can just Google something and you'll see, these listicles. You'll see 10 of the same exact one from each year, or 5 from this year. So where they're getting lost is they're not focused. Really, most are not focused at all. They're just kind of throwing stuff out there, seeing what sticks, which that has its place, but not when that's all you're doing. Not when you're not then taking what sticks and making more out of it. And I feel like that's what happens is they just throw it out there, see what sticks, and then they're just taking another handful of stuff, throwing it out there and seeing what sticks. And not pushing forward in a big way with what resonated with their audience.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because on a couple other episodes we did previously, we talked a lot about using data to actually move forward. So like to that point, it's this pay and spray method that is kind of where you're going there. But so let's assume that companies are trying to run in this direction with channel exclusivity and trying to cater their content with that focus that we've discussed. What's that pirate to watch out for when you start running into like this situation? So like we're on the boat, we're on the direction, everyone's bought in. What are the things that you have to avoid?
I think you'd have to avoid picking the wrong thing to focus on.
Okay.
That would be a big one. You have to, it does take, and it will take some very close, specific paying attention to really what to focus on, because obviously if you focus on the wrong thing, if you take what you think is like this pillar, this content that you think is the pillar and should live on this channel, and that's where it's going to be, if you pick the wrong thing or the wrong channel, that could go bad, that could go wrong. So constantly keeping an eye on it, like you mentioned, the data, like looking at the data, giving it a chance to breathe also, while still maintaining that monitoring of it, where you have a handle on it. That's the thing. Having a handle on what it is specifically, like you have to know. You have to know if it's any good. So in the preliminary side, having that piece of content or having that content strategy, ask other people within the company, ask people outside the company. Guess what? Your piece of content that you are like, oh, well, we're not going to launch it till this day, this morning, and it's going to be this huge, secret thing. It's, in general, nobody cares. Just, I'm putting it out there. In general, nobody cares that it's like this secret piece of thing that you think is so secret. It's going to be out there in a day, and then it's not secret anymore. So just get some feedback from people. Get those opinions from people on what could be better. Is this any good? So many people are so close to their baby, their content like that they don't want to let go, and they don't want to listen, and they just don't, and then it's just out there, and now it's like nothing happened. And if they had just listened to someone ahead of time, maybe there was a small tweak, or maybe there was a bigger tweak. So really having a handle on what that content needs to be, again, serving your customers, serving your audience as to what they want to see, like truly what they want to see.
Yeah, I love it.
Getting that right for the audience specifically.
Yeah.
Cool.
So the thing is, you guys can't see what Remington and I do behind the scenes, but as we're interviewing the guests, we're fervently preparing notes for the recap episodes. But even past that, we love to send out the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, but you have to actually go and sign up for that newsletter so that you can get it. And so therefore go sign up for the newsletter, get our really deepest, intimate, that got a little weird, thoughts around all the topics that we cover with all the guests. Anyway, what else is weird is
exclusive.
Yeah, exclusive. It is exclusive to one channel, our email channel. See? Practice what you preach, people. Practice what you preach. But here's what I will also say. This is really weird because usually Remington does that section, but today we got it a little bit going weird. So I still have to introduce my favorite section of the show. You know what it is. It's time for Captain Killing It, where we talk about somebody who's doing something amazing on the internet or, well, not so much. So, Vincent, when you think about the interwebs and content and great content and pillars and being exclusive and being laser focused, by the way, folks, that's a small recap of what we've talked about today on the show. Who comes to mind, or who's doing the exact opposite of that junk and should get a
Oh, man. Yeah, so there's so many different ways to go here. Positive, negative. I mean, I so many choices, but you know what? I'm gonna keep it positive, and I'm gonna shout out this one particular Twitter account. I think that they do a fantastic job of they defined ahead of time before they launched it, and then stick with their brand voice in a big way. The branding overall is like on point. They basically, in my opinion, revived really a dead brand. I hadn't heard of them since I was a kid. And now because I follow them on Twitter, but I see more people following them, paying attention. So Steakums on Twitter. Are you guys following Steakum on Twitter?
I'm not following Steakum, but I should.
They're amazing. They're amazing. They have a couple people, I think, that run the account, but they definitely have a specific brand voice. It's not really like if you were to be the CMO at Steakum, you're like, we need a social media persona. What should this be? I don't think that everybody would have come up with this particular brand voice / persona, because it's definitely a little weird. It's a little off the wall, off the beaten path, but it's entertaining. There's a certain sense of humor there, but it's a little weird. And their hashtag is like Steakum Bless. You know, and that's how they end a lot of the tweets and things. But they are just really smart in terms of they gathered attention for themselves. When I noticed them, they were on this campaign to get the blue check mark for their account. Gotcha. They didn't have it. And they were like tagging Jack and had people like tagging Jack for them. And it was really good as far as those types of things go. But they just continue on a daily basis to work in and even be relevant. Plus they have merch. Like Steakum has merch. You can buy a t-shirt or get a t-shirt exclusively with like a T-Rex on it eating a box of Steakums or something. It's crazy. And I love it. And one that's similar to that is Moon Pie, where it's like they're weird and then they came out of nowhere to have a social media brand voice. But Steakum was really the first one, and I love that they jumped at doing something different than what everybody else was doing out there, because there was nothing to that point like they have been doing.
Pie. I haven't even looked at Moon Pie.
Moon Pie,
so
and I think
that'll be fun.
It at Steakum? I think it's at Steakum.
All right, sweet. Well, Vincent, it has been fun. Loved riffing this out with you. Thanks so much. Where do people connect with you if they want to continue this conversation?
Being a social media manager, passionate about the industry, I'm everywhere. I'm not exclusive on any channel, although that may change in the future. No, it's just my name, Vincent Orleck. If you search that, pretty much everywhere. I have a channel, but I'm most active on. Love connecting with people on LinkedIn, following back people on Twitter that connecting with people there. my Facebook page. I mean, you name it. Snapchat, of course, Instagram, everywhere.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll drop some links in the show notes so that we can give people those direct links to connect with you. But thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. This was like an honor to be on with you guys.
It is my turn, and I have to tell you, as soon as I get off of the show, I need to go downstairs. I need to tell my wife that she needs to start a Twitter account and follow Steakum because, well, we love Steakum. They're amazing. Yes. But here's what I will say, folks. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the bells, the likes, all those things so we know you're part of the community. If you're listening on iTunes, make sure you head over, leave us a rating and review. 5 stars and some nice words. It's always good to see inside of, well, iTunes. I wish it would go other places as well. And make sure if you have any questions, you let us know because we're trying to help you find the path to your growth for your company. Any conversations, any topics you want to cover, we're here for you. But until next time, make sure that you are doing all you can do to leave the dock of mediocrity and set sail into the sunset of your success.